So welcome back to Handelsdagarna 2020. We are live here, and right now we have Linnéa Kornehed with us in the studio. Welcome.
Hi, thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, we're very excited to have you. So
Thank
how are you
you.
feeling?
I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm super excited to be here. It's my first time in here, and yeah, I think it's going to be fun.
And so you studied computer sciences at the Stockholm University, right?
Yeah.
And you also studied design in Barcelona, is that
Yeah,
correct?
that's correct.
So, I mean, first of all, there's a bunch of initiatives today kind of inspiring women to, go into tech and go into computer sciences.
Yeah.
What got you interested in computer sciences and development of UX design? And that?
I think actually when I started there were still very few women that actually was studying computer science, and I think I wasn't supposed to be in computer science either. It was more like you could say kind of an accident. I was, after high school, I started to work at a recruitment firm, and I was hired as an advisor manager, advertisement manager, and I just came into how you can scrap different web pages, and so I really got into that, and then I started learning how to program out of that, and I was promoted to be head of IT at that firm. But I kind of felt like I wanted to learn more about how this is actually working, so that's why I started to studying computer science.
Okay. And then what about design in Barcelona?
To be honest, now looking back at it, I think actually what I've been very interested in is really a UX, like user experience, and how you can build a brand and tech and how that all goes together. And back then, I think it was still very much in the beginning where we could see like a lot of new startups coming up, a lot of new apps, and like Airbnb and all that sort of startups. And so I just wanted to look into how you could combine tech with design. That was really why I wanted to go and study design for a year.
Yeah. And today you're co-founder and CMO of Einride. How did you guys, how did this start? How did this meet? Because you, Robert Falk, who's the CEO today, he started Chalmers, right?
Yeah.
So how did you guys meet?
So we were actually meeting when I was studying in Barcelona, and I got this request from my roommate that they were looking for someone that wanted to work with design but still had that understanding for tech. And this was another startup that Robert also was part of founding. And so I just said, yeah, sure, let's try it out. And I was working for them for about 5 months before I actually met them. Just overseas.
Okay, overseas.
Yeah.
You were
Yeah.
So you, at the same time that you were studying, you kind of started this job. Okay, yeah.
And that's also when I fell in love with startups and the whole startup community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can imagine. So let's move into Einride a little bit. What for people that aren't familiar with what you're doing? Please tell us. What do you do?
Yeah, so we started out because we saw that there wasn't enough initiatives to move to a sustainable solution for transportation. So that was really the first thought that we had, and that came from Robert, the CEO, that used to be at Volvo Powertrain. And we just thought that with all this new technology, there must be somehow how you can make this smarter moving forward. So. And even though when we started out, we felt like we're going to just try to get the message out there that it's possible to do something else, that you don't really need to be stuck in the same structure that you have been for like 100 years. So we started out with an idea that it's possible to do something else. And I think it kind of, it evolved from that. And today I would say that we would say that we are a freight mobility startup, and that we are working on trying to solve how the operation system for autonomous and electric trucks will look like in the future.
So you'd say that you're as much a logistics company that you're a truck builder?
I think they will be much more collide in the future.
Okay.
Because it's not going to be. This is what I believe. I think that in the future we really need to get trucks and logistics together to work efficiently, and I think that's one of the biggest things that we're going to have to work on now moving forward. And I think digitalization is a very big part of that. The first step.
So I think today in Europe there's about. I'm sure you have a better number than I do, but from what I read, there's about like only 20 to 30% of trucks that are moving in Europe are actually filled with goods that they're supposed to deliver somewhere.
Yeah.
So how can you, I mean, obviously you're gonna cut, because if you don't have a driver, well, no one needs to stop to sleep, to eat, all that.
Yeah.
But in what other ways can you make that more efficient? How can you help to make that number better?
I think you need to start to look at it like how the infrastructure used to work like when you have the OEMs, like the trucking companies selling a truck to a truck driver, and the truck driver is actually the one that's providing the service. That means that they don't really have any touch point with each other. So they are just trying to get these deals from the shipping companies. Yeah. And what we are doing is that we're trying to look from a freight perspective, where we try to, together with our customers, look into how do they ship today and how can we make this more efficient. So I really believe what we're doing is that we're really trying to solve how you can optimize your transport so that you can actually increase the filling rate of the trucks.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, speaking about just driverless vehicles, there's a bunch of things we can come into, ethics and yeah. What happens if things crash. But I think that conversation has been has happened a lot of times before. So let's not move into that, because you can find that
it's a fun conversation.
It is, but I think you can find it in other interviews. So hopefully we can break some other new ground here. Yeah. But so you recently had an investment of about 250 million Swedish crowns, right? Is that correct?
Yes, $25 million.
Okay, so a little bit
euros, yeah.
A little bit less, but ish.
Yeah, ish.
What does that mean for you? What can you do now that you couldn't do before the investment?
Well, the most important thing is that we're going to scale the company. We have customers all around the world, and we need to scale the organization. We need to scale together with our customers and to really make this happen. And it's a big transition, and we are working on many different angles also to try to solve this. But we really believe that you need to take a full stack approach if you want to make a great business case out of it. And I think that's also the difference that we see from the approach that we're taking compared to many others in this area, is that they are targeting one issue like autonomous drive or electric trucks, or just digitalization of the logistics systems that we have today. And we really see that all of these three is going to collide, and that's going to make it much more efficient.
Yeah. And you're moving into the US from what I've understood, is that correct?
Sorry,
you're approaching the US?
Yes.
Yeah. So why not, because also in, was it November 15th, 2019, you had the first public driverless truck on a public road, is that correct?
In May, yeah.
Yeah, in May, okay. Yeah. So it seems to me like Sweden or like regulations here are pretty good to do this kind of work. How come you want to move to the US and start operations there instead?
I think this is also, it's a very interesting topic. I think that we've been very fortunate to work together with Transportstyrelsen here in Sweden to get this permission. But I think the thing that makes Einride's case very good when we start doing operational with the autonomous is that since we're moving goods and not people, it's actually a bit easier to really see how like the environment is where you're gonna go, and it's also repetitive. So you don't have to have you don't need permit to go everywhere, because you can apply just one lane or one route, and that's something else in the US. I think we've been very lucky here, but in the US that is moving much quicker. So now they are allowing taxis that are autonomous, and in the whole Texas to Florida, you can now drive trucks autonomous everywhere. So that's really moving much faster. Even though we had a very good process here, if you want to roll out in a big scale, we still believe that's going to be in the US.
So what's happening right now? Like, where are you currently at? How many, or if there are any trucks out running? Can you tell me about today? Where's Einride?
Yeah, so since we're not really selling the trucks, I think that's always like a definition. But what we're doing now is that we're rolling out our platform together with very big companies. We have 6 Fortune 500 companies that we're working with to start rolling out the platform. And what I think is very important to understand is that when you go for autonomous and electric, you need to look at the whole infrastructure around it, because you need to make sure that you have a electric power grid so that you can charge the trucks. You need to have connectivity, 5G connectivity, or at least 4G connectivity to be able to drive them. Because when you actually remove the driver from the driver's cab, then suddenly you don't have anyone to call if something would have happened. And I think in that sense you need to make it much more systematic in that way. And that's why digitalization becomes so important. So that is where we're starting with our customers. We start to look out for their infrastructure, digitalization, electric, and then we start rolling out the vehicles. But I mean, we're going to roll out hundreds of vehicles in the next few years. That's the plan.
Okay. And when do you think, because you said you're not selling trucks yet, right?
We're selling it as a service.
Okay.
Shipping as a service, if you might.
So do you guys have a set goal for the first sale, actually?
Yeah, we are already up and running.
Okay, you are. Okay, look at that. And to me, an obvious competitor would be, say, Tesla, for example. But are you still, I mean, if I'm correct, they're focusing more on the truck.
Yeah.
And less on the logistic. But
Exactly.
Would that be a competitor? And how are you dealing with that?
Yeah.
It's a pretty big name to have Elon Musk,
Yeah.
taking you on.
No, I have big respect for Elon Musk. I think, like you're saying, like the biggest difference is that Tesla is selling a truck, an electric truck, and they haven't really changed the business model. They are still selling trucks to truck drivers. And I think that's the biggest difference, because we are targeting the customers like Lidl or Coca-Cola, and Tesla is still targeting the truck drivers, to put it simple.
Okay, yeah, I'll buy that. Let's pivot a little bit and get into you. What do you do specifically at the company? Like, what is if there is a normal work week for you, or if you see some patterns at least, what do you do?
I think it's been quite a journey, and of course it's changed a lot during the way. And starting up, we were 3 people and you do everything, but like growing the company, my responsibility and what I'm working on currently is to set up the design team, the marketing team, and the communications team, but also public affairs, and how we're gonna work with that moving forward. It's a pretty exciting job also to be in this area.
It sounds like it, for sure.
It's happening a lot.
So connecting back to, you study computer sciences, you're interested in UX development, and we talked a little bit about initiative for females to kind of voyage into what you're doing a little bit more.
Yeah.
Do you have why do you think women aren't approaching this kind of work as much? Do you have any ideas?
I think it's a lot of legacy in the structure in how we see competence. I must say I'm very happy, because I think that we see now that there is more female entrepreneurs. I think that we need more female entrepreneurs in industries like logistics, transport, and moving into those areas as well. But I'm also very optimistic that I see that there's been, like, we can really see that there's a big change just only by this 3 years that Einride has been up and running. I think there's much more female entrepreneurs coming, and it's pretty exciting. But I think it's super important to get inspired and to get being able to share knowledge and to share experience, but also network. And I think that is something that's also becoming better, is that women are becoming better at networking. And I think that's just amazing, and I think that's going to open up a lot of doors for female entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I think you could be a great role model in inspiring people to kind of follow your footsteps, for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I would be happy also if you have any question, or if someone like any, knowledge or something that I can do, I would be very happy if you.
So how can just to make that happen, if someone's watching and want to get in contact with you, what's a good way to get in contact with you?
The best way would be to email me, Linnéa.Kornehed@einride.tech. Or actually, I would say also Instagram is
Instagram is a favorite. Okay.
To be honest, I probably would answer faster on Instagram.
Nice. Okay. That's good. So you mentioned before the cameras went on, you mentioned financial structures.
Yeah.
And you spoke a little bit about just barriers. Can you tell more about that?
But it's very interesting because like how the market it's operating today is, we touched upon it a little bit before, but that is that truck manufacturing are selling, or the OEMs are selling trucks to truck drivers. And that means that the truck driver's role in this whole ecosystem is actually to be the one that takes on the big loan or the credit for the truck. And so what the OEMs are also making money out of is that they take an interest, somewhere about 6 to 7%. And so before starting Einride, or I think it was the first year, we had this research that said that it's actually very common in Sweden that truck drivers doesn't take out any salary the first year because they want to lower their interest or their loan. And I think that really, and then on the other hand, you have the haulers that also want to put down the price for the end company, how to say. And so they're really like in the middle, and they're stuck in that middle. And what we're trying to do is that we're trying to say that, going from the shipper's perspective and say like, okay, so you need to be able to ship in this direction. And the interesting thing with the financials is that no one has really solved, like when you don't have a truck driver in the ecosystem, who's going to own the hardware? And I think that is why it's so fascinating, this whole industry right now, because no one has solved that yet.
Okay, well, I'm sure that's going to be an interesting nut to crack. To challenge you a little bit, because the truck driver that today has a loan, but still has a job.
Yeah.
With Einride, if you guys rule the world, they won't have a job anymore. And in the U.S., truckers, it's a big topic in the political debate now. What's going to happen when this is automated?
Yeah.
Is that something that you're faced with? That the challenge? Do you speak about it at Einride?
It's actually, I think that your very good timing is actually something that we're going to start talking much more about now, moving forward this spring. Doing this transition is going to mean that you will not longer have a trucker in the car or in the truck, but it's also going to mean that you're going to have to create new type of jobs, like remote drivers, because we don't see that there's any scenarios where you want to have self-driving trucks that's no one is supervising. Like, you don't want just to make them go, you still want to have someone that's actually overlooking them. And so we believe that the truck driver's job in the future is going to be much more like a monitoring role. But at the same time, we're looking into that we could drive 10 trucks with one driver in the end. That's not really the case right now, but in the future it might look like that. And of course, then it's going to be a bit more tricky. But I think also that something that you need to take into account also now is that you're going to have a terminal personnel that's actually working with loading and unloading the trucks, and that's the truck driver's job. And so I think that we're going to see a lot of new jobs coming out of this transformation. And also just to mention that there is a huge shortage of drivers, and that's a global problem. In Sweden alone, it's 4,000 jobs missing as drivers, and in the US, there's about the same percentage of job missing, or shortage. So I think this transition will not happen overnight, but I think it could be a very good transition, getting the people that today drive to get new type of jobs, and also solving the shortage of truck drivers.
Yeah, and I can imagine that's going to be, I can see some kind of challenge in it. I don't know what it will be like to sit and kind of steer 10 trucks at the same time, but I'm imagining that's a high-skill job. Or is it?
It's more monitoring, so of course you're going to have some sort of education, but I think much more like a flight tower. that you're monitoring it, so you're overlooking it, not that you're driving it. So what a case could be that if you drive a truck that, so of course they're supposed to drive on their own, but if a truck would be in a situation that it really doesn't understand, then you could take the decision for it. Like, should you pass this other car that's in the right lane of the highway, or should you just like go after it? That sort of decision making, we still think a human should take those decisions.
So I think to round off, let's pivot to you again. For how long has Einride been active? Like when did you actually start this?
Yeah, in September 2016.
Okay, so about 4 years. And you've been, I mean, it's been pretty fast still, and I can imagine it's been quite a ride.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite challenge or a favorite failure or something like an especially tough moment that you went through during these years?
Yeah, I think every phase of a startup comes with its own problems. I think in the beginning it's just you feel kind of crazy sometimes when you have this really big ambitious idea that you want to have, and you're gonna pitch it all the time, you're gonna network, and you're just gonna throw yourself out there, and of course that is very scary. And to also say like, we have this idea, we have no idea if it's gonna work, but we believe so, and please invest your money in us, we're gonna show that we can do this. Of course that is very challenging, and you really feel like you're throwing yourself out there. And but then in the different phases, I think something that we came across, and we actually had some good advice from a professor from Stanford that told us, like, being a startup in Sweden could be very tough, and most of the startups in Sweden, they die when they start to be too organized. And so I was so happy that we had that advice before, because we could also feel like sometimes we're like spending time organizing and making stuff look good instead of actually achieving that goal that we were supposed to achieve. And I think that's been very challenging, but I'm also so happy that we had that knowledge with us when we started.
Yeah.
And I would say for now we're 85 people in the team and growing, and we're gonna have to get people fast on board and get up to speed and grow an organization, and that's a challenge, of course, as well.
Yeah. Do you have I'm thinking for your kind of job, do you have any skills or any competences that that come especially well in hand for you over these 4 years of being in a pretty volatile and kind of risky environment that's growing fast? Do you have a favorite skill of yours that you think is?
I think you need to be very open-minded, and I think also that something that I've been thinking a lot is that you need to be very inclusive, and that you need to be able to just open as many doors as possible, and I think that for me, I always been very curious about people and people's talent and their skills, and I think that's been a very good skill to have making this, because you can always, like, if someone else is better, you always grab them, and you get like this experience from talking to them, and I'll say that's probably my best skill as an entrepreneur.
I think that's a great way to end this conversation. Thank you, Linnéa, so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.